have very deep pockets. They can perhaps have other intentions. And so I think that everything that business does in the end is aimed at profit, whether it comes through profits for shareholders or salaries for the people that work there.
Excellent. And I mean, do you think the way supply chain management is practiced at the moment is having a significant benefit for SMEs? I mean, there's some good figures under your watch that have come out over the years in terms of the number of people who've entered the city supply chain. What do you attribute to that?
Well, certainly we have a supply chain process that's very extensive, that is aimed at trying to maximize the accessibility of all the stuff that we procure to as broad an audience as possible. So although there are very big projects that go out, very large tenders of sometimes hundreds of millions rands, we also have very, very many smaller tenders, many that come through a request for proposals. Certainly all those that are under 200,000 rand come through an RFQ. We issue over and we procure, over 11 billion rand a year. So I think that just gives you some idea of the extent of the procurement business in the city.
Sure.
We also have extended the access to particularly those RFQs. In the past, all that an official in the city had to do was to go and get 3 quotes, and didn't no one ask where he got the 3 quotes from, and awarded that to the lowest price. That's not how it happens today. We have a whole process where you can register as a supplier to the city, and that registration, during that registration, you can do all the necessary things like your tax clearance certificates and so on, so that you're then ready to procure with the city. In that registration, you can then also register for up to 5 areas of business that you want to do with the city, and in which case, if there's an RFQ going out for that one, you will get notification of that, whether it's email or SMS or something. And also we publish every single RFQ on our website. Everything over 2,000 rand gets published on the website. And so you are able then to put in a bid on anything that you think you can do. Obviously you must have registered on our database, which by the way is free. There's no charge at all for registering. So the whole process here is to try and maximize access to our whole tender system.
Excellent. And I mean, it's a significant organization, 4 million people in the city, massive budget on many metrics. The single biggest organization in the province. I mean, apart from the provincial government scope. What do you think are some of the common misconceptions? When one encounters people who maybe have complaints or concerns around the tender system and the development of SMEs.
Well, we don't get too many direct complaints. Now and again we do get people who it's usually due to a lack of understanding. Sure. Of how our system works. We do apply all the laws of the country, the Preferential Procurement Framework Act, the BEE codes, which is another area of change at the moment. And so that sort of point system that's laid down in the PFMA is used right through, from whether it's a 500 rand contract or a 20 million rand contract.
Fantastic.
And so a lot of people come to us and say, well, you say that you're open for business for people of colour, and we've tendered and we didn't get any contracts. Well, my answer to that is, well, you didn't give her a decent enough price, because someone else beat you in terms of the point system. But go and look at, rather than what your company did, if you look at our overall stats, more than 70% of of the procurement we do goes to companies that are between levels 1 to 4 BE compliant.
Brilliant. I don't know if you have any questions on your side, Judy, before we open up to one or two entrepreneurs who are going to share their experiences. But just on that, you know, one of the things I encountered was I asked somebody who had been quite successful, who shared with me, he got a significant tender as an SME, and I said, well, why don't you go out and speak to some other people, share your success tips? And of course he was quite reluctant to do that, and he also didn't want to have too many people knocking on his door looking for jobs, so he just thought it would be easier to go by stealth. And so sometimes you don't hear those success stories to the extent to which we've got people like Rapelang Rabane and Sizwe Nzima, who, you know, businesses are built in a different way, and they're very happy to share their successes and their first exit and so forth. But Judy, just over to you on any other questions.
I did have a question that sort of came to mind while you were describing the procurement site, as you referred to it. It is, I must say, I have been onto it myself, and it's wildly impressive and very, very user-friendly. And in fact, it's really the only one in the country that one can access, which is free and available. So, yeah, sorry, I don't have a microphone, so I suppose I should use one. And my question is, for somebody who is not in the city of Cape Town, and if they wanted to maybe become a supplier, and I'm thinking perhaps if we have a look at, I'm sure that you do have city officials who need to travel to other parts of the country, so maybe there are guest house owners or hoteliers, shuttle businesses, something like that. Maybe they're not in the city of Cape Town. Would there be opportunities for them also to respond, or is it limited to you have to be operating your primary business within the borders of the greater city of Cape Town? That's really my question.
There's no limitation at all. Anyone can tender. So as long as you're registered and you qualify in terms of having tax clearance and all the other requirements, then you can tender. You don't even have to be a South African company. Obviously, if you don't have BE points, you're not going to get them. So, that's just the case. So but I mean, in a number of our tenders, we do have requirements for local participation, but it's usually South Africa is the definition of local, rather than the city of Cape Town. But I think in practice, in the end, the overwhelming majority of the money does go towards Cape Town firms. Simply, they're here, they're able to deliver. You can think particularly all the big construction contracts, it usually is medium-sized Cape Town firms that get those. Let me just also say, in terms of our website, we show, for example, I said every single RFQ and tender is shown on the website, but we also show the results. So for all the tenders, the overall amount is shown of each tenderer and their BE status. Then when the tender is awarded, that's also posted onto the website. And equally for RFQs, we also then post who won the contract in the end. Also then, if you do get the contract, you're then able to go in on your registration and see where everything is in process. If you submitted invoices, where they are in process, whether they are being paid, you can see all the history on that. So you can you can follow the process of all the financial process that follows from carrying out that tender. We are also moving towards a full e-procurement process. We are already testing it with 100 suppliers. We want to make sure it's all working fully before we go broadly on that. And essentially the idea is you will be able to log in and submit your tenders online. So that will have not only advantages for the suppliers, but for us as well, that we then don't have to enter all the data and check it and make sure we didn't get it wrong. If you get it wrong, it's your problem. But that's what will be carried over automatically into a system to enable the evaluation of the tenders through an automatic process.
Fantastic. And of course, accompanying that, there are workshops that are rolled out, this time with economic development, to explain these supply chain processes, and I think also just to show some of the other business development services that are out there to ensure that one gets up to scratch. Another question, and perhaps for the Deputy, but also for yourself, Judy, working in this private sector space. It's been said sometimes that reliance on government tenders is often an over-reliance, and I've certainly met one or two entrepreneurs who said they shut up shop and the reason was they didn't get a certain government tender. I mean, do you think there is this dependency or perhaps a bit too much of a reliance or hope for a government tender against the backdrop of perhaps corporate tenders? Deputy, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that?
Well, certainly I don't think, businesses should rely on government tenders. It can be a useful contribution, but you really should be building your business beyond just getting government business. It should, and if you're a startup, and maybe that's a way to get into business or into a certain sector, and to give you a startup, but you should rapidly diversify your client base, because I don't think clearly as we drive this openness in our tender system, you're going to have more and more competition. So you can't always rely on getting government business.
If I can also just quickly respond, a number of the entrepreneurs, when they go for public sector funding and when they go for government tenders, the only real complaint they have is cash flow management. It's around not being paid timeously. So it was a great relief for me to hear that one's going to be able to track payments and invoices and where they are in the process. Because the thing is, often what happens is that people don't get paid because there's something wrong with the invoice. They don't have the right purchase order number on the invoice, or it hasn't been submitted correctly. Maybe what it is that they signed a contract and the terms and conditions were that they were going to get paid within 60 days, but they hadn't gone through that and actually identified it and said, well, I actually need more money up front, or I can't afford 60 days, whatever it may be. So often what it is it's around cash flow. However, selling to a corporate and large companies in the private sector is exactly the same. There are some corporates where it takes them 6 months to pay as well. So I don't think that necessarily the one is better than the other. I totally agree with you. One needs to have a diversified pool of customers, because as soon as one becomes a captive supplier, the one actually runs the risk of not being sustainable. One can't be too reliant. There is a rule of thumb that says that no customer should account for more than 20% of your income. So that if you actually happen to lose that big customer, and let's say they are 19% of your business, you will survive. But if it's more than that, there's a very strong likelihood that you're going to be closing your doors.
Absolutely. I don't know if there are any entrepreneurs who wanted to share their experiences, but I certainly saw, I think, about 9 pitches today with companies that have certainly come quite far. And I made no qualms about the fact that we're trying to get some of you to Cape Town. We have had some successful transitions already last year, Rapelang Rabana being one of them and a couple of others. But I don't know if you identified any brave souls, Judy, who maybe wanted to share something of their experience before we get into a few more questions now from the floor.
Certainly what I'd like to do is maybe if I can just hand around the microphone, and some of the entrepreneurs who are visiting Cape Town. We've just concluded a supply development boot camp here in the city of Cape Town. So let them introduce themselves to everybody and share with you what they're doing and what they're up to. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with you, honey, if you wouldn't mind, standing up and introducing yourself. There you go. And then hand it on to someone else when you're finished.
Hi, my name is Hani Devu, and I have a contract with Tohosan. I run San Juan Vereniging. That's my business. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Pascal Nderitu. I'm based in Johannesburg and I'm in the solar energy business.
Good evening everyone. My name is Mlungi Seleli Chachaza. I'm the owner and the founder of Kini Quantity Surveyors. And yes, I would love to be part of that. Those tenders which have a small, I'd like to be part of that. Thanks very much.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dean Thompson, and I run Inferno Films. We usually do corporate films for our clients, ranging from health and safety videos to training videos. If it's video, we do it.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kim Williams. I'm from XL Consumables. We are a vendor with City of Cape Town. We've been doing business with them for a couple of years now. It's not large contracts, it's small orders that comes through, but like they say, the website, when you do quotations, is very transparent. It will tell you where you need to deliver the goods, and everything is so clear. We just need to start getting more binders from the city. Thank you.
Sharpen your pencil.
Good evening. My name is Luyanda, and my surname is Koba. I'm running a hotel business in Southgate, Johannesburg, and my hotel is going to be built to 140 rooms by next year, which is going to be of a good capacity for sports, leisure, and all other business. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much. My name is Wumbelani Nengobela. I am the managing director of a company called NHE. Our focus is on trainings, or what you call skills development. And the aim is to expand to other areas or other projects so that we have the national presence. Hence I am here to explore such opportunities. And I'm looking forward to doing business with your institution and other business people in the house.
Evening, everybody. I am Tatulo Masweu, the managing member of Kait's Information Technologies, Information Systems, which is a company that plays in the ICT industry. And then, Judy, I just want to add a comment on that rule of thumb, the 80-20, just to share my experience. My company was registered in 2008, but it wasn't fully functional. And then I was fortunate enough to land a contract with one of the municipalities in 2011. And they were contributing close to 70 to 80% of my business. And then when the contract came to an end, I almost had to close my business because it took like a really serious downfall. But then being an entrepreneur and having that spirit to fight, I just kept riding on. The Honorable Deputy Mayor, if I may just ask a question. I run a company, it's based in Johannesburg. I would love to do business with the city of Cape Town. However, I must be also realistic to myself to say I cannot take on a 20 million rand tender, looking at the state where I am right now, right? And then at the same time, looking at the geographical location of my business, I can't respond perhaps to an RFQ of 2,000 rand. Is there some sort of like a roadmap that maybe the city might have for such instances to say, all right, companies that are outside the city of Cape Town and are willing to do business, this is the space that they can play in. Thank you.
Well, I think it'd be difficult for us to establish a standard, because I think across all the different businesses that we do, that those would be at different levels. So, you know, a contracting, civil engineering contracting company would be at a very different financial levels than someone supplying IT equipment, for example. But the point really, it's really up to you to identify that. The information's there on the website, on all the tenders and all the all the RFQs that we put out. It's really for you to monitor that and then decide for yourself what's appropriate for you to bid on.
Right, can we have one more? Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mpendulo, the General Manager of the San Juan Hotel in Johannesburg. I'll just like to add a comment to applaud the city of Cape Town. Coming here and hated Cape Town. It's not a place that I was dreaming of coming to work in, but today I can tell you confidently that I can plant a hotel here and manage a hotel here. Reason being, the systems that you guys put in place for an entrepreneur, it's very difficult for people in Johannesburg now to understand me when I say I'm in Cape Town and I don't have a car. I'm traveling comfortably. The My City bus works. I think the system and the system that you guys have, you really understand the presence of the Table Mountain in Cape Town. So people coming here, it's very comfortable. So a question that I have that has been in my mind all along is, how do you guys avoid load shedding? Thank you.
Okay. Well, we can't always avoid load shedding, unfortunately. We wish we could. But certainly when we have a level 1 load shedding, we are fortunate to have a pump storage scheme that can give us enough energy to cover the 80 megawatts that Eskom wants us to cut. So particularly here in winter, when we probably would have been running that anyway during the evening peaks, which seems to be the time that Eskom is now shedding at this time of the year. We then run the pump storage scheme instead of load shedding. And we're busy with the refurbishment of that, so when that refurbishment is finished, hopefully we'll be able to do level 2 load shedding cover as well.
Fantastic. And on that, the city also has a plan or an openness for something like a gas-fired power station. But of course, that sort of private sector initiative can only come in with some change at the national level. So I do see a shadow minister who's here, and no doubt working hard on that. Yeah, and just affording, I suppose, more opportunity for enterprise to help meet the challenges that we face and certainly can overcome as a country. I wanted to open up to a few more people from the audience, politicians excluded, so I have one gentleman right here for now.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe. I'm from Uber, and I'm also from Joburg, so I came just to attend the event because I've heard about it. My question is to the Deputy Mayor is, can we see a world in the future where the procurement systems could cater for on-demand services? The CEO of Airbnb was in the country before. We are in an on-demand platform ourselves. So in the future, could regulations accommodate such an environment?
Well, certainly. I mean, take Uber as an example. You know, we have now in the Western Cape, it's not the city, it's the province, has given licenses to a whole lot of Uber drivers. We see it, we know it's a changing technology, the world is changing. Currently the legislation doesn't cover that kind of service, so we are looking at a bylaw so that we can cover that kind of service. And I think we have to always look at changes to technology. Another example, for example, is the is rooftop solar electricity production. In the city here, we allow people to put up to 1 megawatt on their rooftops and to feed into the city's system. Now, we're the only city in the country that's doing that. Again, go on our website, all the forms are there, you can fill them in and apply, and we'll let you know what standards you have to comply with, you know, to be able to qualify for the tariffs, the feed-in tariffs. And we have quite a bit of take-up already. There's some very large businesses here that have already covered all their rooms in solar. So that, you know, and we are envisaging that as time goes by, there's going to be more and more disruptive technologies, and we can't go the kind of thing of 20 years ago when Telkom tried to stop cell phones. You know, you know, that's not the way to go. You've got to understand that they're a threat to your current business model, but you've got to change and you've got to adapt. And the sooner you get on with it, the better.
Amazingly, just that move to allow the solar energy has had such a drastic impact on just the carbon footprint, purely through entrepreneurs getting into the market. Last year, we saw Cape Town named the #1 city in the world according to the World Wildlife Fund's Earth Hour Index because of the most drastic impact made in reducing the carbon footprint. And of course, while government got the accolade, it was just the change in the regulatory environment that brought on the private sector to help really make that happen in a very big way. So clearly, it's possible. You just can't take a Telkom move in this instance. You've got to open up.
Gordon Chunnett, why the limit on 1 megawatt? Domestic consumers would also like to have part of that pie and can probably put in half of that, quarter of that, but it would make a significant difference.
Well, 1 megawatt is actually very big. I mean, most households only do about up to 6 kilowatts, which is, you know, what, 6,000ths of a megawatt. So absolutely, every household can do it. That's part of what we do. The reason for putting the 1 megawatt limit is that, again, we are trying to push the boundaries on the legislation in the country, because theoretically you need to get a generation license from NERSA to put that up. And we're saying, well, we are recognizing that if you're under 1 megawatt and you also buy electricity from us, so you're a net consumer, you buy and sell, we don't think you need to get a NERSA license. I told NERSA that at the hearings, that's how we do it, and they were just quiet about it. But I think that's the point, you know. So currently we limit it to 1 megawatt, and that's usually, you know, a shopping centre's roof. It's that sort of size that you're talking about. So there's, you know, very little that's not covered by that.
Another question. Is the city open to BOT type arrangements for solar especially? Because I'd be very keen on that.
Okay, we don't have any at this moment in time. The trouble with BOT at this moment in time is that we then have to apply the PPP legislation, which is very, very onerous and takes years and years to put together and go through all the regulatory steps that you have to do. So we tend to avoid that. We would prefer to simply put out tenders for supply. So we would, for example, become a procurer of electricity from somebody. And that. So I mean, we are pursuing, for example, as Garreth said, we are very keen to get natural gas here into the Western Cape, and we're talking to everyone to say we are willing to be a power purchaser for up to 300 megawatts on mid-merit load to anyone who wants to come and put in a gas-fired power station here in the Western Cape. Doesn't have to be in Cape Town, and there's a lot of interest at this moment on that thing. I hope we have a good idea that within about 3 to 4 years that we will have that in place.
This is not about this time, but I'm going to use my business card.
Right.
Just another question, Honorable Deputy. I mean, 73% procurement from SMME suppliers is quite an impressive record. Is the city still looking out for more, or is there a cap, or would you want to have it as open as possible?
Well, we don't actually set any target at all. You know, we create the conditions for you to bid. Clearly, if you can get points of the BEE points towards the assessment of your tender, and if we put in local suppliers or other things like we also have, you get points for green industry stuff as well on some of the contracts. You know, you've just got to respond to those opportunities. If we end up with all of them, well, so be it. You know, but we found that by not limiting it, we actually get more. You know, rather than saying we have to have a minimum or a maximum. I mean, essentially now in the city, after 9 years of driving it this way, you know, it is mainly, as I said, 70% are the top 4 levels BEE, and that's they competing with each other now. It's not, you know, a white firm who's at the top now. It's 6 BEE firms fighting for the tender amongst each other.
Honorable Deputy, tourism is about people, and having said that, the city is beautiful and it's working for the people. I also believe that there's still more potential into that. The reason I'm saying so is that going around, I'm a passionate traveler, by the way. Walking around, many people who have serviced me or I've come in contact with from the garages and restaurant, they seem to be very angry for reasons I don't know. I had to actually lie to one woman and say to her, she has beautiful eyes until she smiles at me. It worked anyway. But now my question is that what programs are in place, more especially for those people who are in the service industry? Because 10 years ago, no, it was 5 years ago, I worked here for almost like 3 months. It was the same story. And what I've noticed again, coming back after 5 years, I still experience the same thing. Everything is beautiful here. The problem is the people that are servicing us. I don't know if some sort of programs are needed to actually help into training them and so customer service or what. And it may look far-fetched or something that is not important, but I can tell you it can have massive and positive results in as far as tourism is concerned in this city.
Absolutely. No, well, certainly I agree with you that we have to continually try to lift the level of service, not just in the tourism industry, but across the board. I don't know, maybe Gareth can add to what I have to say, but just an example of what we do. You know, we have the convention center across the road here. It's been going for 12 years now. They have a training program for both serving staff and for kitchen staff. Now, but the people who get jobs there only get it part-time because it depends where there's a conference on or so on. But they get this training, and they have a big turnover of staff, about 30% a year. And why they have that training? Because they're getting good training, and they're getting picked up by all the hotels and restaurants around the city. And you'll hardly find any hotel or restaurant here that hasn't got someone who was trained at the convention center. So, you know, it's very often in terms of driving our normal business, we find these ways to drive that. But maybe Gareth can talk broader on the subject.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the potential of Cape Town to take tourism in particular is massive. So you look at the accolades we've got, you know, best city in the world to visit last year by the New York Times. Again, this year, the Telegraph in London, I think the third year in a row, top-rated city around the globe. Look at comparable cities who've got those accolades, and you're looking 20, even 50 million tourists a year. Cape Town, the growth has been significant, but if we get 5 million, that would be something incredible. And so I think the point is you've got to build that openness to tourism if we talk this specific industry and demonstrate the value and the impact that it has. And I know if you look at what the industry bodies are doing now, we had a summit with FDASA and other organizations like Cape Town Tourism. It was to look at precisely this, how you maximize the experience from the time you land to the time you leave. And really it's got to be underpinned by the private sector. coming and supporting those programs, as they've done very openly, not with a view to Milton Friedman, maximizing the profit and the appeal of Cape Town as a whole, so that more businesses can grow and develop. So I do think that is quite a big factor, and it's been good to see people coming around the table. I mean, 40 organizations came to the meeting 2 weeks ago saying, how do we deal with this? In the context of, for example, just dealing with the seasonality, the perception that winter in Cape Town is as dreary as the stereotype there of the people sometimes. Winter's beautiful in Cape Town compared to many other places around the world. And so sometimes we even give ourselves a bad rap. The Middle East market, Southeast Asia, love this particular part of the world because it's cool and it's very different to the humidity that they are dealing with back home. So we've got to find our edges, we've got to tackle new markets. The challenge we have, and for those of us in the tourist sectors, entrepreneurs like yourself, are the visa regulations, because we've seen the numbers are down on China, 70% according to some, and in fact we've been taken off the travel brochures in a lot of those markets where you've got to go get a visa. And I know Mike, who's here at the front, has been working on lobbying government, as have others, to get those changed. So I think that's an important part where entrepreneurs have got to be speaking out with platforms like these to say, you know, what am I losing because of the people who would have come here but aren't, besides just measuring your narrow loss, you know, because you had relied too much on one contract or something to that effect. So I think that's, entrepreneurs have a very credible voice and should be speaking out, you know, the way you're doing here. By the way, we've got national here, we've got city. Jenny Cargill, who's special advisor to the Premier of the Western Cape. Jenny, would you stand? Thank you. Just so you don't all flood the deputy with questions, Jenny's a fantastic resource as well afterwards. And of course, as always, Shadow Minister Toby Chance, who fights the good fight daily for small business across the country. Thanks again, Toby.
And Dion Damon's from the province is also.
Dion, I'm sorry, I missed out. Could you stand as well? Dion, welcome. Excellent. I promise that's all the government people as far as I know. Did I? Excellent. All right. Any further questions? There we go in the front.
Thanks. Hi. Jenny Lawrence from Grant Thornton. You mentioned in procurement policies you sometimes require local production or local input. Is there any chance you could add in input for specifically women-owned companies and specifically black women-owned companies?
Well, we don't normally limit contracts. In fact, by law, by the Constitution, we cannot limit a contract to only certain people or organizations. You have to keep it open to anyone. What we have in this country is a preferential procurement system where you can earn points that are offset against your price. So the short answer is we can't just limit it to anyone in particular.
My name's Michael Cohen. We have a business in the finance industry. We support SMEs with regards to that accelerated cash flow that was spoken about earlier. And I was just wondering, from government's point of view, you know, most businesses do suffer, you know, the fate of the fact that they have to wait for money and therefore can't, in some cases, even conclude their contracts that they've been granted. I was just wondering, what is the policy of the government going forward with regards to shortening that lead time? Because what we find, and this is the focus of our business, is that we actually advance money at the day that the invoice is raised, so that that entrepreneur, that business, doesn't have to wait the 30 or 60 days for the funds to come through from government. We have a very good relationship with the City of Cape Town. Other municipalities don't recognize a third-party payment, but that's a bit technical. I was just wondering whether there is a program afoot whereby this could be addressed, and if in any way we can be of assistance, we'd be glad to do so.
Well, I can only speak for the City of Cape Town. Our standard is 30 days, but we also, on a number of smaller projects, do 14 days as well. So, you know, we don't always meet that. There are quite often problems, but essentially our system is once three things are loaded, what is a purchase order, there's a VAT invoice in, and then the project manager issues a goods received note, then the payment goes through the next pay run. So that's the way it works. So if you're not getting payment, get that project manager to, what we say, GRN the invoice.
Right. It seems, I know we have reached our time limit, and it seems that's the conclusion, certainly for this month. But a very warm welcome again, not just from the Deputy Mayor and I, but from the Mayor too, for those of you visiting Cape Town who are at the business school today, and who certainly had perceptions changed in some cases, but also who are open to doing business here, because that's fundamental. And I've got to say, with due respect to the Cape Townians, I think we were talking about that Forbes top 30 list. If you look at the disproportionate number of people from Cape Town, they're actually not Cape Townians. They're people who've come and made Cape Town their business base. And I think that's fantastic, and we certainly welcome more of that, and make sure the Cape Townians smile a bit more and do, because I think we're in an exciting space, and the entrepreneurial potential in South Africa is well demonstrated. In fact, if you look at the book How South Africa Works, that's been doing the rounds by Greg Mills, he speaks about, there's mention there that that's one thing we have that many other countries just don't. And so when you consider that, I think it shows the enormous potential that lies ahead for all of us. And thank you for engaging government. That's the other part. Often you go to public meetings and it's certainly not as orderly as this. So it really is a fantastic, productive and engaging forum, of course, provided by you, Judy, and your private sector partners. So thank you, and Deputy Mayor, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very nice. Let's go at 7.
It's really short. Thanks again, they really love it.
And I've already identified a number of people I'm going to introduce. So that's my only competence, actually.